Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Heal Your Mind, Heal Your World podcast. My name is Anne Marie Morales, and today I have for you a delightful soul. Her name is Mary Hayes, and she has been doing intuitive healing work for her entire life. And I'm so excited to have her on here to share about herself and her gifts and to just bring more love and light into this plane. And so without further ado, welcome Mary to the Heal Your Mind, Heal the World podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here, and I thank you, Anne Marie, for the invitation.
Well, it's a pleasure. I had the joy and pleasure of meeting you at the IAIH, the International Association of Interpersonal Hypnotherapists Conference last October. I know that's a mouthful.
It is.
Last October. And you did a beautiful exercise with us, and I just loved your energy. So tell us a little bit about you, your work, and how you got to be who you are today.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate having the opportunity, like you said, to inspire, to bring more light and love and understanding to the world. Not unlike you, I love to help and I love to teach. And so I knew as a child, very young, that I wanted to be a helper person. I thought, when we're in school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always thought, well, I'll be a nurse or I'll be a teacher. But because the road of my life did not take a more conservative route, I had troubled childhood, family dynamics. I won't go into that unless that seems pertinent today. I just had to continue really relying on my own intuition all along the way. And I think that's true for many empathic people right now on the planet, that we've just had to, strengthen those abilities. So my gifts really started to become very apparent in my 30s. I had a gift shop, and people would come in to buy a gift or a card, and I would instinctively share things with them, very respectfully, of course. And it turned out this was helpful information, supportive, kind, but also, it was intuitive. So I knew then something's going on. So in that amount of time, since then, I'd say I've just evolved my natural gifts. I really have had no formal training in any way, because I didn't see this as a vocation. I really didn't think this would become my calling, although I knew there was going to be something that would be what I would define as profound coming into my life. And so for about 25 years, this has been my work, but I've had other professions. I was an award-winning photographer for over a decade. I worked in Fortune 500 company in a leadership role. So I think those experiences have allowed me to be more well-rounded. But in the context of those jobs, I was still helping. I was still in service. So being able to do now what I do full time is a privilege and an honor. And I always tell someone, especially if it's their first time with me, I take my work very seriously, not because I'm this heavy-handed, serious person, but like you, people entrust us with sometimes the most serious aspects of their lives. And of course, as a medium, they're coming because someone they loved has died. And a lot of times there's confusion, there's conflict, there's heartbreak. And so every day I show up to do what I do, I just turn my heart over to be in service at the highest level. And like I said, it's just a privilege.
Oh, I'm in such agreement with you. And I love how you just put that because it mirrors a lot of my own personal journey. I
Yeah.
was in Wall Street, I was an art teacher, a singer. And then all of a sudden, these gifts started to open up.
Yeah.
And
That's it. Yeah.
yeah, and I have no other choice but to do this because I think it's just the most beautiful thing. And you consider yourself an intuitive counselor and a direct channel. Can you describe what that means?
Yeah, so that's wonderful. So intuitive counselor, it's very interesting to me and very honorable and humbling. I have a lot of traditionally trained mental health counselors that come to me on a fairly regular basis, and several that actually refer clients to me because I think my approach is a nice adjunct. It's a complementary approach to the more traditional, although I've studied a lot independently. I have permission to think outside the box, but it isn't really thinking, it's sensing. I can feel, I can drop in as an empath. So I'm shown things, I'm given things, it's, in a world of this type of work, I think there are a lot of misunderstandings in terminology, clairvoyant, clairsentient, empath. I mean, there's all the big words, right? But I can probably like you yourself and many that are in this similar type of work, I use all my senses. So I can draw on my history, I can draw on my intellect, but I'm also sensing and feeling and seeing visions. So, and I always work from the most respectful perspective. So if someone comes to me, I always ask, do I have permission to be honest? That's the ground rules to begin with, which of course the answer is always yes, but I want to establish that. And then I strive always to be very respectful. So I prefer questions because if someone has asked a question, they've also given me permission to feel into that, to perceive at the deepest level, which is what I do. So that's the way I would describe intuitive counseling. It is not unlike a counseling session. My room is set up very similarly, and we'll go into whatever topics are, weighing heavy or whatever gifts they want to evolve. Channeling, however, which I do more in group events or if I'm working with a client that really wants to work at a more esoteric level, I would say, is allowing another presence to literally talk directly through me. So my voice will change. There are many on the planet that are doing this more so now than ever, but many have heard of Esther Hicks working with Abraham. Lee Harris works with his Z's. He's a precious soul. And so I've been direct channeling for over 25 years, not taught again. The group presented themselves, asked if they had permission. I knew that night. What a blessing, what a gift. So I'm present. It's again, there's a lot of interest in terminology. Is it trans channeling? Is it, am I in an altered state? Am I asleep? Am I aware? So I'm fully aware. I consider it a partnership, but I've learned through the years that they're so wise and they're so kind that I step back and allow them to do that work, knowing and trusting that they're going to be always kind and respectful, a lot of times very funny, but right to the point. So it's an adjunct to the intuitive counseling, but always I think they're working behind the scenes, which is, it's a team approach, which is such a blessing.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And so you're working with one particular group or collective, and
Yeah,
what do they call themselves?
they've only asked to be called the channel, and I'll
Okay.
I'll share with you why. And that's since the very beginning. They don't want to be mistaken for a gendered being, like a guy or a gal. And when someone really doesn't have a baseline sense of what's channeling, what's a collective, then I
Right.
will often say, imagine a group of loving angels coming to help. Because most, if not all, major world religions and most people, I think, want to believe in angels. They may not have a firm hold on that, but I don't think it's offensive to go, hey, I've got this loving group like angels. And to me, their presence is very similar to the angelic presence. So again, it's such an honor, but what distinguishes them from, let's say, an ascended master or someone like grandma coming in from the other side, who, grandma can be very helpful too, but they have never had what I believe to be as an incarnation on the planet, just like angels. I don't think angels are from the earth. And so their perspective really is illuminating. Their perspective is otherworldly. So it's not just based on, oh, I remember when I did this. I think they're how they're able to help is different from the way I can help because again, it comes in from this broader, higher, more illuminated perspective.
Thank you so much. Yes, I love that. So as you're speaking, I'm getting all jiggly
Tingly.
and tingly, and
I love
so
that.
I'm I'm resonating quite a bit with what you're saying. And the question came up in my head. Uh, do you think that there are, however, angelic souls that do come to planet Earth? Because I had a session just a couple days ago, and I was 100% sure she was like a high frequency angelic
Yes.
soul.
I think it's a strong yes. In fact, I'll share the sweetest little story with you that I think will answer that in the most profound way. Simple but profound. But the way I refer to it in general is there are many in the unseen realm that are here helping us now, and some will appear to be human or come in to work because that sometimes that's just an easier way to receive help. But if we could see all the help that's here, because I know many are very distraught by what's going on in the world, and it's understandable. It isn't like, oh, don't worry about it. No, there's some very big things coming up and out for healing, for understanding, for transformation right now. All the more reason to draw on the help, to request and welcome the help coming in from the other side. So I will, or from the unseen realm. And let me share this sweet little story with you because when I grew up traditional Christianity, and I still have a strong faith, but I think it's expanded considerably to be more all encompassing. But I've gone through some real hardships in my life, and I was a single mom with very little children and had not ever expected to be in that role. And I was working 2 and 3 jobs just to literally put food on the table, and I was going to do it. And my children really didn't know what a hardship it was, but I buffered them from that. And I had a college degree. I was a pretty bright honors college degree, but here I was out schlepping, and I was a package deliverer with a brown polyester shirt on, just delivering boxes because the schedule allowed me to be home when they got home from elementary school. And a friend got me the job, and it was very humbling, but I thought, it paid decent, and I could be there for my little ones when they got home from school. So I remember one day I had all these boxes, and I had a dolly, and I just, I handled it with grace, but there were days like, I shouldn't be doing this. This is not an ideal job for me, but it was right at the time. And I just had all these heavy boxes, and I'm a fairly strong woman. And I thought, and I saw the door up ahead, and I thought, this is going to be really tough to maneuver, getting all these boxes and a dolly in that door. I thought, gosh, I wish someone would just open the door for me. And that was, the prayer of my heart and just a thought. And I'm walking up this single sidewalk. Out of nowhere, someone shows up. And I remember looking back at the parking lot going, I don't remember seeing that guy. And he runs ahead and he goes, let me get that door for you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like an answer to prayer. Like I just remember going, where did he come from? He couldn't have been any kinder. He looks me right in the eyes. He said, I'm so happy to help you. And I said, thank you so much. And he had a service uniform on, the kind that has the embroidered name badge on the shirt.
Mm.
And I said, thank you so much. What's your name? And he points to his name badge, Angel.
Yeah.
His name was Angel. And I thought, okay, then. So I said, I knew, so I said, thank you so much. My name's Mary, and nice to meet you, Angel. And he opens the door. I go in, I turn to look, and I never saw him leave.
Ah.
And I thought, I cannot question. And I had challenged the concept of angels before because I thought, is it fairy tales? Is it unicorns? Do they really exist? So I put a challenge out there to life itself. I need to know. So I'd already really created a strong foundation of belief. But I thought that day was like, okay, I am 100% signed in. And it was a small gesture, but yet as a struggling single mom, it was profound for me. Like the help will be there. We need only ask, and we need only say thank you, and we welcome. And there the help will be there.
Oh, what a beautiful story. I can sense the emotions coming up within you just recalling it.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful metaphor for
Yes.
all of us, isn't it?
It is. It is.
I mean, when we ask, we receive. And in this case, it was a literal angel.
Literal angel showed up, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I was at a low point, and I thought, gosh, I'm just doing it all alone. And so often we feel like no one understands, or I'm out there all alone. And through the years I've really grown in my understanding, like especially in as a medium, I see how much help is really there for us and for everyone. And I thought we need only, I don't even think we have to beg or really ask, like, please, 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 which is the way I was raised. Like, you better just beg and ask and hope you're good enough. They will.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm such a believer. If anything, I mostly just say, thank you, whoever wants to help today. I'm glad to have the extra help. Because just like us, if someone says, can you lend me a hand? We show up because that's our instinct. So I think there are so many in the unseen realm that we only have to say, hey, thanks. Glad to have a little extra help. It's not a magic genie. And I think sometimes people can go the other extreme. It's like, well, I asked and I didn't get my wishes answered. But we have to trust divine timing, what is really in our highest good. And we don't always have that perspective. I know I could be a little bullheaded about that. Like, why didn't I get it now? But trusting in retrospect always is like, it's a good thing I didn't get it when I thought I needed it. So I think life itself has that innate wisdom that will give us what we need at the time we actually really need it.
Yes. And I think that is the biggest, one of the biggest challenges for humans being in separation is that we do feel so alone.
Yes.
And isolated many times, especially if we're going through, like many are right now, very spiritual awakenings, questioning reality, not being able to identify with, what they call the normies, which are the unawaked or the asleep, or however you want to quantify that.
I think in Harry Potter they're called muggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. For all the muggles out there. I said that one time and someone's like, what is that? I was like, oh.
Once you know, you know.
Yes. If you know, you know. And I also remember channeling that it's not only that we're not alone, but we literally have stadiums of energies that are there for us if we so desire, because I also believe that we live in a realm of action. And, you have to ask and you shall receive kind of thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a realm of action for sure. And the way I went, my mind, yes, I think we have to say, yes, I'm willing. Yes, I'm ready for the help.
Right.
But I think also sometimes our thought is, well, they're just going to do it for me then. I can just sit back and just sip my coffee or play video games or whatever. One of the things that I do faithfully, and it wasn't something I read in a book, I'm sure it's in books somewhere, but when I first know that I'm waking up in the morning, when I'm in what I call that twilight state, that most vulnerable place between sleep and awakening, I ask, I'm like, what is the best use of my day today? So I joke a lot about being a Virgo type A. So I have, my lists have lists, my calendars have a calendar. Like I am that gal. But I have learned to acquiesce to the higher plan. So in the morning, I might think I'm going to pack XYZ for lunch today, and I'll get guidance. No, today's a day for a protein drink. And I'm like, okay, I'll make a protein drink. So I always have paper by the bed. So action is also required. And I think when our action is aligned with those insights, then we don't have to fight against it with our intellect. So many people are like, well, I just thought it all through and I made a plan. Aren't you sticking to your plan? I'll have a plan. I have a pretty good blueprint. But if the next day or in that actual moment, I feel instinctively, if my innate wisdom, which I think is our true connection to the bigger picture of life, my instinct is going, you may want to wait to make that phone call, or you may want to wait, then I've learned through trial and error and plenty of error, you know what? If my gut self is saying wait, I'm waiting. So there's action, there's involvement. So it's a partnership with life itself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. As you know, I'm a hypnotherapist,
Right.
and there is that part of the human mind, that critical part of the mind that just gets so loud. I had a lovely gentleman in my office the other day, and he's struggling with some very, very strong emotional feelings. And he was making breakthroughs, but that part of his mind kept spinning
Battery.
him,
Yeah.
like making him doubt. And I literally told him, take that part of your mind and place him on the shelf for a moment. Tell him you're working over here. And he's like, okay, he's there. And I was like, goodness, thank you.
Good.
It's like,
Good.
we will talk with him next time.
Yeah. And it isn't one versus the other,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where, it's so encouraging for me to see a rise in embracing and recognizing the importance of intuition. I mean, finally, it's not out there in the fringy woo woo, like, oh, intuitive, oh my God, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we're starting to realize both are God-given gifts. We're given that keen intellect so we can really, look at what it takes to create an engine or fly a plane. Like, we've got to have our intellect in place, and it's got an important job. But the intuition, our gut sense, also needs to have its place. So I think that was a brilliant way to do it. Is like, let's just, let the intellect, let the worry part take a time out. It's not making it wrong or bad, and it's not discrediting its value. But let's let it have a coffee break while we're working with the other part of you. That was a good approach.
Yeah, we're trained and we all know that energy is never destroyed. It can only be transformed. And so that part of the mind, it just got out of balance with
Yeah.
what he needed and desired for his own best and highest good.
Right.
Oh, beautiful. So tell us about this. You gave us this beautiful activity at
Hmm.
this conference. Can you tell us a little bit about this activity? And it also allowed us to go into the soul, go
Yes.
into our own soul and see
Yes.
it from a different perspective.
I'd be thrilled to share about that. If I may, I'll spend just a couple of minutes giving a little backstory, because you, as an art teacher, especially will appreciate this. So I
Mhm.
also have an art degree, and I
Oh,
think that helped me, with my photography career and whatnot. I know it did. But when I stepped into this work full time as a visual person, um, I thought, why can't I see colors? I thought, I should, I had these other gifts that were quite evolved, but I couldn't see auras and I couldn't see chakra colors. And I thought, oh, so I put out a call, just like we talked about at the beginning. It's like I made a request, and it was a sincere request. It wasn't like a demand, but I would like to be able to see colors. And a couple of weeks later, literally just a couple of weeks, I started to be able to see colors while I was in the middle of appointments. And I was just tickled, and thrilled. And yet I realized this isn't an aura, like the way the colors were showing up, and it wasn't in alignment with what I know to be the chakra colors. And I'm like, what is this? So I was intrigued and I was excited. And then it only took a couple more weeks for the what I was being gifted, what I was being shown was a way to perceive the essence of the soul. And I remember when I realized what I was being given was the deepest honor. I just gasped, like, oh my God. So when I started really offering this as a service to someone, and I tested it very quietly, and I did it for years, so I could really evolve it and understand it at the richest level before I really took it out to groups like the hypnotherapy conference where you and I met. And And the few times I have already taken it out there, it's been so well received. But basically, I call it a soul essence reading, and where, with someone's permission, it is as though I can see beyond the human perfection into the deepest, truest aspect of who they are, which to me is the soul, that's indwelling spirit, if you will. And through a series of colors and shapes, I will know, I will be shown, and you did it, the whole group did their own, these deepest, truest aspects of the self. And like you said, it's yet another tool, it's yet another perspective by which to better understand the self. It's so healing and so transformative and so insightful. Even if we've been on a journey for a while, an awakened journey for a while, information will come up. And when I've done this through the years for individuals, especially if I have no history with them, it's just like, oh my God, you're right, that is me. And what I think is the most healing about it is when we are given this opportunity to glance, to see, have a deeper understanding of the soul, there's nothing wrong about the soul. It is that perfected part. So I know when I've done this for people, they're just kind of holding back, like, yeah, those things are true, but I'm just waiting for the bad part, and they're bracing themselves. And I would have already preferenced it, like, it's all good. We're going to just do this for like an hour. Like when I do this for individuals, it's usually a full hour of just immersing in these gorgeous, meaningful aspects of who they are. It's so enriching and, like you said, so healing. But we've been taught, like, well, wait till we get to the bad part, but the
Yeah.
soul isn't. So the human part of us is the imperfect part. But this is this immersive experience. And I will say, at the hypnotherapy conference, to see the pictures people had drawn, and I was fairly limited in time to be able to explain what we were going to do what we were going to do, and then interpret it. But yet, so beautiful, the images. And these pieces of artwork that people can take home and, like a child's piece of art on the fridge, it's such a beautiful reminder, like, yes, no, I'm organized, and that's a noble quality. Just if I can say a little about that, if someone has what I refer to as a column shape, this is someone that's highly organized, like a backbone person. And a lot of times those people will be criticized for, like, oh, you always have to have it so perfect. If you are an architect or a brain surgeon,
Right.
that's a good quality to have. That doesn't need
Right.
to be made fun of. So it's a way, just using that as an example, to see these qualities, the positive aspects of it. Now, because we're in human form, yeah, we're going to have our shadow self, we're going to have our ego self, call it what you want. But this is yet another way to shine the light on the good and work toward allowing that to shine through us rather than being tripped up by the ego. And I'll just say, I'm actually in the process, as the beginning of this year, writing the workbook and creating an online course, because the couple of times I've rolled it out there, the reception has been so beautiful. And I realize I want more people to understand what a beautiful tool and technique this is, not only for this self, but for practitioners to offer their clients, because everyone, I think we all hunger to be seen at that perfected level. And we can be hard on ourselves, or the world can be judgmental or criticizing us. But what a gift, again, to be seen for who we are at this perfected level.
Oh, that's wonderful. Much success. I'm
So,
very excited about that for you
thank
and
you.
for everyone. I mean, we can consider ourselves, oh, we're experts or we do a lot, but we're always learning. At least I am. I'm always learning.
Well, so then I'll tell you something, and you might remember in your artwork, there is a particular color that always loves to learn. And I also have that color. I mean, till the day before our last breath, we're going to be like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. And it's the color yellow. And so it might be orange, which has the component of yellow in it. And I jokingly say, well, it's also the color of youthfulness, because anyway, that's not the joking part. I was going to go somewhere else, but I'm going this way instead. But whenever someone has that innate sense of wanting to learn, that curiosity about life, I actually think they don't age as rapidly as other people, because everything's intriguing. Like it could be going out and looking at this gorgeous full moon we've been having. It's like, oh my, I've seen 100 full moons, but this was this full moon, right? And that's that yellow that has that childlike sense of awe and wonder and loves to learn.
I remember my drawing
Oh,
very
goody.
yeah, very vividly. It was actually in like a star shape,
Oh, lovely.
and it had white in the center, yellow, and then green and blue.
Oh my gosh. Can I spend
Yeah.
1 minute telling you about your colors?
Okay, sure.
Okay. And I'm sure there's other things we want to talk about. It's very, very rare to have a star shape. So when we look at what a star represents, this is someone that brings illumination, right? And if we refer to the imperfect human part, or the less than perfect, I'll say it that way. So if someone's ego driven, they're like, oh, I have to be the star, I'm the center of attention, right? A misuse of that alignment. But here you are offering a podcast with having different beautiful guests on, so you can say, well, I'm the star of the show, but the truth is you're sharing a platform. So you're using that illuminated opportunity to share with others. So it's a beautiful use of you being a star, if you will. And then yellow, like I said, is curiosity. Yellow is a warm, friendly, giving color, almost always in service. And then blue and green, those are the healing colors. That is someone that innately, almost always, if someone works in traditional Western medicine, almost always they have blue. Blue is a strong color of communication. And then green is green. The green in my color system is very similar to the chakra green of the heart. That innate sense of just wanting to help people feel better. So you're perfectly aligned with your soul, doing exactly what you're doing. So kudos to you. And that's another use of something like this is if someone, I had a client many, many, many years ago that had a color that was so dull. And I thought, my heavens, what's going on in her life? I had never met her before. And she was in a line of work that she absolutely hated. And so the illumination of the life force energy wasn't shining in her, and that wasn't bad or wrong. Like it was, it just, she wasn't given the opportunity to be her best self in that career. And she knew it. And she was making efforts, I believe, to find another line of work. So this soul essence information can help someone feel good about the choices they make, or to start moving into a healthier direction so that their gifts are being better used. You just checked all the boxes right there.
It took me a while to get here, but I really believe I'm here because I call myself a Jane of all trades. I've done so many
I
things.
love it. And like I said, I've done many things too. And,
Yeah.
we were taught growing up that, it's a straight line. Like you're going to retire 45 years from now doing a line of work. But I look to nature a lot of times, and we look to the bees and the butterflies that are flitting about. And yet in that, there is still, they're pollinating, they're gathering nectar. We've been gathering these life experiences. And you can say, does this make sense to you? But I know in the work I do, had I only done one thing, if someone came to me struggling with a corporate job and I'd never had corporate, I'd be like, well, just think positive, but I understand the dynamics, the hierarchy in corporate. So I think it was frustrating along the way. I wanted to be where I am now sooner because that soul yearns for that, right? But I can, again, look in retrospect and go, it's a good thing I've had so many varied experiences, because that has brought more nectar into the pool or the pot of my knowledge base and my life experience. So there's more to draw from.
Yes, absolutely. That's people feel that. And I think that's why they're drawn to you. And I have clients who say, oh, wow, I never knew that you did that. But, they'll come to me with an issue and I'm like, gosh, I've been through that exact thing.
Been there, done that. Didn't
Yeah.
take the t-shirt with me though.
That's so cute. And had something I just wanted to shift to. Can we talk a little bit about the mediumship that you do?
Sure.
Because that is, it's similar, but it's not similar to channeling at
Right.
all. So, can you talk about how that entered into your realm and how you use it in your practice?
Yes, and I see channeling and mediumship as quite different. There are, my understanding, the last I looked into it, and that's been some time now, there are not a lot of mediums on the planet that actually allow a deceased one to talk directly through them. We are the liaisons. We are communicating on their behalf. So how did it come into being? Well, sadly, my mother passed when I was a young teen, and she had a very troubled life, a lovely, beautiful soul, Girl Scout leader, Montessori teacher. I know now she must have been an empath, and I've coined a phrase I have yet to hear called the white sheep. We all know the black sheep of the family. I think the empath is the white sheep. Um, and so when she died, I knew she was out of her suffering, but it left a big hole in my life. And so this was before the internet. I'm aging, dating myself, but I started finding little spiritualist churches once I could drive. And I was very shy. I was very timid. I would always sit in the back row, and but I needed to know because, as I mentioned earlier, growing up in the Christian church, I had been told some very hurtful things about what might have become my mother after her death, and I, even by the minister at our church, said the most unconscionable thing to a grieving child, and I had to know the truth. So her death put me on the journey of needing to know as a young teen. So I've been on this path of understanding the other side for better half of my life, more than half of my life. Anyway, these little spiritualist churches, they always brought her in. Like, can we come to you in the back row? And I'd be just like quietly nodding my head. And every time I could feel her presence, the message was so pertinent to her, and that awakened that whole concept of making it normal, making it compassionate. If someone had asked me back then, do you think you will do this? I no. I have a college degree. Do you think you're going to be a medium? No, but it was my own seeking. And as this gift then started to naturally appear, like you said about yourself, these gifts start to become more prevalent, more noticeable. And we have choices. We can say no to them. But I knew if I could help someone that's having the same kind of struggles and heartbreak I had, why would I say no to that? So, what's fascinating about it, and as the years go by, I'm recognizing how very unique it is I just evolved my own system as a medium. Again, no training, because at no point was I going to go be a medium. I worked 10 years at Casadega, which is one of the world renowned medium places around the whole planet. Film crews would come in, and it was hard on the front end because I didn't have the certification that many in that town deem necessary. But because I've evolved my own system and had zero training, I have a way that I work that allows anyone to come in at any time. So if someone comes in, and I've dealt a lot with parents that have lost children to accidents, overdoses, and suicide. And of course, that's all they want, is to know that child is okay now, not struggling, not suffering. Had I had one lesson I would have been told it's impossible. You can't promise who's going to show up. I was innocent. I was naive going into this. Even when I started working out at Casadega, I didn't know that's the way, quote unquote, you were supposed to do it. And thank heavens, literally, thank heavens. So I did seances out there. We capped at 25 a night, and everyone has a turn. Everyone had a turn, and I still do them periodically. But I, the way I've evolved my mediumship is if someone asks, I've never had a soul not come in. They know we are seeking to know how they're doing. A lot of times there's unanswered questions with overdoses, just using that as an example. Was it intentional? Was it accidental? That kind of information can bring a lot of closure and a lot of comfort. So they're always honest coming in from the other side. I always strive to be in a very clear and open space. I take good care of my body so that I am a clear vessel to the best of my human ability. And it's hard work. I say sometimes, I'm in the death business. It's not all of my work. Like, so when I compare it to like the soul essence is like the dessert. And the mediumship is probably really almost on the other end of the spectrum of the many things I do. Because inevitably, if someone's coming in and wants connection, their heart is sad. They've had a loss. So, but how healing, how transformative to get answers, to know their loved ones are no longer in suffering or in pain, or even if it's an old person, an elderly person that passed. I had a friend pass this week in her 90s. The children are relieved. She was struggling at the end. She and I have had a couple little chit chats, and she's just doing the happy jig now. Her body just kept declining and she kept hanging on. And now she's free, so that can also be healing and transformative, to know that that sickly old body is what's left behind. And the whole soul essence part of us is what remains.
Oh, what a beautiful share. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm chilling. My body is shaking. I'm getting emotional. Like what you're speaking is so resonating with me.
Thank you.
And I started my kind of like my energy business doing these expos.
Oh,
and
wow. Good for
yeah,
you.
there's a couple of, metaphysical expos that are all over the state of Florida. And
really good ones. Yeah.
Yeah, really good. And on my sign at the very beginning of when I was doing that, I had nothing written about mediumship because
right.
I've never really,
Mm-hmm.
I've never really, but people will come and sit down and say, my so-and-so, so-and-so died. My husband died. Why did he leave me? And I'm like, holy crap, these people want this from me. And so I always know that there's no mistakes. And so everything that comes up, it's meant for me in
Beautiful.
in one form or another. So I just like girded my loins and I just allowed for the information to come through.
Beautiful.
And I was like, I don't tout myself as being a medium, but I'm going to give you exactly what's coming through. And it's happening. It's happening. And I tell people nobody is more shocked about what comes through me than me.
It's humbling when we serve in that capacity.
Yeah.
But and you brought up a very good point. I think we all have ability to connect with those on the other side. And I say this respectfully, but I was a closeted medium for a very long time. I would tell people I'm a counselor and I'm an intuitive or medium. And I would like mumble that because I didn't want people to think I'd, gone to the dark side or I was a witch or something. And to my amazement, when I finally had courage to tell people, like my next door neighbor, when I moved to a new neighborhood, she says, "What do you do exactly?" Because she would see me leave for work with a briefcase, but work kind of unconventional hours, and she just couldn't get a read on it. And she wasn't going to take the pat like, "Oh, I'm a counselor, I'm an intuit." When I told her mediumship, she's like, "Oh my God, I talk to my grandfather all the time." She was thrilled to have someone to share with. And that has been the response, I'd say 90% of the time, that most of us have had connections or signs or communications from the other side, but we're afraid to tell someone. I was afraid and I was doing it professionally, So for you, in a service oriented setting, in a metaphysical expo, people are coming to you. Again, I believe the souls on the other side, they're not reluctant to come through. They're eager to come through. they're not, every once in a while, I'll see some hesitation simply because there's been so much hurt and heartbreak that that soul on the other side knows they've got some apologizing to do. But even then, they're going to come forward because they want to help facilitate healing. So for you to say, I'm here to help, I'm not really officially a medium, but yeah, let's see what happens. It is extraordinary when information comes in, but you have given yourself to service. That person has entrusted you with that. You take your work seriously. And the soul says, great, someone said yes, give me the mic. And they'll start talking.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes. I'm feeling like this podcast is just for Anne Marie right now. But I wanted to ask you, because as you're speaking, of course, I'm getting images and I'm at, things are coming in my own head. Um, we we create cords of attachments between ourselves. And what's your thought on those cords for people who have crossed over? And do you believe that they go through their own healing and need healing as well? So,
Yeah, I've given that. I'll come back to the cords aspect of it. But again, my mother's life served as a way for me to really understand what happened on the other side. And from that point on, I really put myself on a very arduous study course to understand. So while I can say I'm self-taught, I'm a good student and I've studied a lot. And my belief now is all souls, once they get to the other side, will have an opportunity. I don't think it's negotiable. It's just they can self-pace, they can decide when they want to start, but a life review. We've often heard the term my life flashed in front of me, or if someone has a near-death experience, an NDE, their life is there in front of them, the good, the bad, and all of it. So during that life review, I think not only do we see our life, but I think where the healing and the transformation comes in, even when the soul is on the other side, we're not done. We're not laying there resting in peace. That's a lovely thought, a lovely sentiment. It actually doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think all souls are peaceful, and with very little exception. That might be another day's conversation, but that life review, we're able to feel into what transpired. So, like yourself, if you have done a lot of good and you've offered insights and healing to others, you're going to get to feel what it feels like to be that other, to be on the receiving end. We're all going to screw up. We're all going to be like, oh my God, I said something insensitive or hurtful. Did we make it right? Did we say, hey, I'm sorry? Did we take accountability? So did we clean up the mess? That inevitably we're going to do these things. But when someone has failed to acknowledge their wrongdoing for whatever reasons, they turn to addictive behaviors that have hurt a lot of family members or what have you, they're going to have to also feel, we will all have to feel all aspects of our choices and behavior by feeling into like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much that hurt my brother when I, showed up drunk and, trashed it. I don't want to make up a negative, but you understand it isn't, I was raised to believe in hell and I honor whatever feels right for any individual, but it doesn't make sense to punish someone. We're all going to have done some boneheaded things, if you will. But by feeling into the dynamics of that situation from an observational standpoint, then the healing can transpire because no one will have wanted to really hurt that other person. It is out of their own fear, their own pain that I think we act out negatively. Now, so that's that life review. That's how I see it. So the suffering is done, but the healing and the transformation continues. And that's very beautiful. I won't go long into it, but my father was not a bad person, but a pretty awful father.
mm-hmm.
But when he got to the other side, even me working full time as a medium, I was shocked how much he was able to offer me support and help. And at first, I strong armed him, like, yeah, I don't think so, Dad. You pretty much bailed on me here, so I don't really want to deal with you. And I didn't. There's too much hurt. And then I had to really put into practice my own understanding he can't hurt me anymore. He can't disappoint me anymore. Now he's here with hat in hand, humbly willing to help. And he's been a tremendous help. We have a very different bond now, very different connection. But so even people that have failed us in the most awful ways can want, and they almost always want to start to make things right. Call it karmic debt, call it
Mm.
cords. You know, I don't spend a lot of time focusing on cords, but obviously there are very meaningful connections with us that go beyond the understanding of the physical. So it's, I think it's helpful and healing to know that, again, that old concept of like, well, I'll share real quickly. I had a mother come to me many years ago, just in desperate, like, can we? And I thought, she had this sense of urgency as far as time. And someone had told her after 30 days, she should never try to communicate with her dead son ever again. I'm like, oh my God, who? And it was someone in the profession. And I said, I don't think that's ever true. She was really? Like she was just trying to get everything in 30 minutes because otherwise he'd be earthbound. Otherwise he'd be stuck here. And I'm like, they want to be close to us, but they are fully immersed in the light. So we get kind of the best of both. They get to have all the goodness of what the other side really is, what the light is, but yet they can come and still offer us support and encouragement and comfort. So this idea of leaving them alone, or we can't bother them, I don't want to bother them, it's far from the truth. A renowned medium wrote many books, and I love the title of one of her books. The title is We Are Their Heaven.
Mm.
And there is that bond, that connection. They don't want to see us suffer, so they're in that illuminated place where they can now be there for us.
Wonderful. Thank you. You're reminding me of one of the very first times, like I said, I go to these places, and these two young kids came and sat down in their like high school age, very young kids, a boy and a girl. And they said they're here because one of their best friends died, and they're worried about her mother.
Mm.
Because her mother is grieving so hard. And again, this was like, if not the first or the second time somebody came to me with this issue. And like I said, I had nothing written about mediumship on my
Right.
board here. I do X, Y, and Z. Okay.
Right.
And so I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this. And what came to me was, look, she's okay. She's just fine. But with the mom suffering so very much, it's almost inhibiting her, this newly transitioned soul, from freeing herself and kind of moving on. And that the mom needs to understand that her daughter is perfectly safe.
Right.
So
Right.
can you?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that.
Yeah.
I think if they do seem to linger or stay around a lot, it's by their choice. They're not missing out. And when we think we have to let them go beyond, like you have to let them go, where are they going to go? I think the veil, if you will, so many will refer to the veil, this very thin veil between our conceived realm and that realm. Well, if it's a thin veil, then they can be here again, fully immersed in the heavenly realm, in the light, and still close. And I think this is where it's so important. I think this is so important, is what's left behind is all negative emotions. If we conceive heaven, we like, oh, it's paradise, it's heaven, but they're still pissed off or they're still agonizing over something. That doesn't make sense. That's the humanness of us. That's the physical human that's capable of sadness and grief and depression and struggle and suffer and anger. But in the perfected soul state, again, going to that soul essence understanding, that's all the good stuff. So using that as an example, that mother's grief is not tethering that daughter here to where she can't leave. She's too worried about her mother. I don't even think they can worry on the other side. they can see the suffering and they can empathize with the suffering. So her presence is probably there to offer comfort, to offer reassurance, but it's not a negative tether. It is out of care, because once on the other side, all the suffering aspect, all the negativity is gone.
Yes. Okay. That's very fair. Wonderful. I've been told, and I kind of feel it in my own life, and I'm sure there's many other people out there too that would like to grow this part of who they are. What do you suggest for people?
There are many beautiful souls out there teaching right now, and I finally myself got the calling. I've always taught very informally, so just this past month I've started a development group at my Winter Park office. Small closed groups, so we're working on whatever anyone wants to work on. And I'll offer something in general also. I've also just started what I call the Golden Ticket Mentorship Program, where I'm working with individuals that are really dedicated to wanting to evolve their gifts. And what's nice about a program like this, as opposed to like an online courses are great. We can learn some very good, broad, general information. But my teaching and training's unique, one of a kind. I meet the person exactly where they are. Where are your fears? Where are your concerns? Where do you feel blocked? Where do you feel stuck? And let's just drop right in. And I use my intuition to help observe what's going on. And then I use my training and my abilities to help them evolve. And I just had a gal, she only had a couple sessions with me with the Golden Ticket, opened up her website, and she helps with missing bodies. Very specific calling, and she's amazing. She was going to take some online courses, but she realized it's so specific, and a couple sessions in, she got the courage to do a website, and she has her first client already. And she's like, I'm off and running already, Mary. So there's a place to take some general information, but ultimately trusting what we innately feel inclined to do. Like you could have turned those young teenagers away and said, hey, look, I'm not a medium. Did you read my board? But your heart wants to serve. And I think when we're in a place of honor and respect and willingness, it's amazing what we're able to do. So sometimes a little refinement, a little confirmation, but we all have gifts. Trusting what we instinctively feel, asking someone for their feedback, asking for their permission to be honest, so everything stays clean and above board. We can evolve a lot of things independently too.
Oh, wow. Well, I had no idea that was happening. So thank you, Spirit, for downloading that into my mind. What a perfect segue. Mary, it's been a delight.
A delight indeed. Let me thank you for sharing time and inviting me to be on your podcast. And really, those of us that walk this path, it takes courage, it takes conviction, it takes commitment, it takes compassion, and you are exhibiting all of those qualities. So let me really acknowledge you.
You've got me all verklempt.
Verklempt. She's verklempt. I love it.
Well, wow. You have just told us that you are offering this Golden Ticket program and that you're a teacher. Where can people go to find all the information about what you do?
My website, maryhayes.org.
Thank you,
Simple,
dear.
simple.
Thank you, dear, for your time. What a beautiful soul you are. And thank you for blessing us on this earth plane with your gifts.
My joy.
Yeah, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here and sticking around to the end of the podcast. Again, my name is Anne-Marie Morales. I am a certified transpersonal hypnotherapist, intuitive energy healer, and channel. You can find my offerings at ammhypnotherapy.com. Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.